Hi, my name is Ainsley Battles. Thank you for joining us this week for Joccupation. Today we'll be discussing clarity. We have Courtney with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
So we've been talking about the ability to see clearly. Because when we can see clearly, we know what the appropriate action
100%.
is. But when we start having our judgment clouded by perception, by achievement, by defeat, by recognition, by just life, what does it actually mean to see clearly?
What a great question. In my opinion, to see clearly means you have stripped away anything and everything that doesn't come from you, meaning the cheers, the boos, the stories, the input from others, people's opinions, outside events that have happened to you. When you can strip everything away and get very still and very quiet, your voice can become very clear. That type of clarity is the direction that we need to make decisions out of.
So when I hear clarity, what comes to mind is a sculptor, right? Painters create their images by adding things to the canvas. A sculptor actually creates the image by removing what's around. And that's some of the things I know when I was going through my own transition is realizing you're not a ball player, but you're also not smart. You're also not attractive. You're also not talented. You're just a person. And you're a person like everybody else. And the first thing that happens when you do look into that, you feel insignificant.
Invisible.
You feel, just like a grain of sand on the beach. So when we come to these kinds of realizations, right, those moments, what's some advice as to what a person can do while they're in that moment? Because I see that as the moment of, I'll have another drink now, right? Yeah, like that's the time where it's like, and I need to leave. I need to get out of that space.
Right.
But it's kind of like that. You work so hard to get to that space. What do you do when you're in it?
That's the opportunity. That's what's so extraordinary for those of us who are able to strip everything down and arrive at such a pure space. That's the moment you rebuild. That's the moment possibility becomes reality. At that moment, in that realization, you have the entire universe at your disposal to rebuild, recreate, repopulate your life and your world inside and out to be exactly what you want it to be next.
What do you think about the adage that says, a man that has nothing to lose has everything to gain?
I love that because it tells me that that man is not a hostage to anything or anyone in his life. He has nothing to lose. His creed lies within himself. His allegiance lies within himself. A man who has nothing, to me, I don't hear, well, a man who has nothing and lives under a bridge. I hear a man who is free. I hear a man who has no chains. I hear a man who is spiritually and emotionally available for possibility. The world is his. The world is his.
Why do we create filters? Well, I guess let's back up. What is a filter? When people say, when we all look from behind our eyes out, we don't, by nature, we don't see clearly. We have certain filters that are installed at birth and as your upbringing. Why do we have these filters? Why are they put in place?
So I see our filters almost as, like a screen on a screened-in porch. A piece of screening pulled over our ability to see our reality. And each fiber in the screen is made up of one of my parents' opinions, one of my cultural views that I have been exposed to and sort of like beaten into submission with, a bias, a fear, information, lack thereof, right? And so all of these fibers are interwoven and meshed to create a barrier. That's the opposite of what we're talking about in terms of freedom. When that mesh, when that screen lifts, there is so much possibility. You can hold more than one thing or more than one idea to be true at the same time. And you are not hostage to one train of thought. You are not hostage to one opinion. You don't have to do what your parents told you was right or the way that you were brought up. So some of the fibers in our mesh are formed in the womb. Some of them are genetic. Some of them are passed down from generation to generation. Others are triggered and put into place by traumas or events from our childhood. Others are put into place by trying to adopt and assimilate to those around us so we feel a part of things and we don't feel like the weird kid or the weird person, right? And so before we know it, you blink and you're an adult and you've got this thick mesh in front of you. And that's when the world can sort of start to feel like it's closing in on you a little bit. Lifting that screen up, recognizing your own bias and your own fear and your own misinformation, being really tuned in to thinking about your thinking. Is it really yours? Is it someone else's that you just sort of picked up where they left off? Is that really yours? Is it not? And being able to, like we were talking about, as the sculptor, sort of shave off these things that really aren't yours to begin with. The weight lifts off of you. The screen lifts up. You are free and clear to live your life and be exactly who you're supposed to be on this planet, to live your purpose, to have a clear sense of direction and a way to plug into the universe around you.
Something that, because we share a commonality in our nerddom. So etymology, right? Mm-hmm. Where words come from. Mm-hmm. The word tradition. When I actually looked up the definition of the word tradition, it actually means to betray the present. So when we go through our lexicon of the tradition of, I'm starting to learn the word tradition is more of an anchor to carry things into the future rather than letting them go.
That's right.
So what I'm hearing is the more we let go, the freer you become. Mm-hmm. So with the filters, if they're put in place, how can we change them?
First is identifying them. We can't change them until we know what they are. And so I think the first step to changing the filter or getting rid of it altogether, right, is to be able to take an honest look at things that you're afraid of, things that you love, things that you know a lot about, things that you don't, beliefs you have. Why do you have these beliefs? Do I really feel strongly about this or do I not? Do I think I'm supposed to feel strongly about this? If I'm a good person, I'm supposed to care about that. Like, really, I don't. So a lot of the work that I do, especially with my athletes who are transitioning into being more of a civilian, what's important to you? We call it values work. What's valuable to you? What's important to you? And a lot of times I'll get a long list of all these things. This is what I think is important. This is what's important. It's important. And as we sort of strip it down, well, you know what? These couple things on this list, I don't know if I value that. I just kind of think like, that's how I was raised, but I don't really know if this is important to me. So it's the shedding process. It's molting. It's part of a natural evolutionary process, and I think that is how you can really start to realign yourself with your values and live a life that is congruent with what's valuable to you instead of living a life through that screen.
Perfect. So somebody sees this. Somebody says, okay, I know I have bias, regardless of what it is.
Absolutely.
Right? Who is somebody they can talk to? Who is somebody, because part of what I think when I'm thinking like clarity and clear is like the conversation I heard earlier about people think money is going to make them rich and the getting material possessions make them rich.
Solve everything.
How can that person, I guess, see clearly? Or I guess they can't see clearly until they can see what's in their way. Mm-hmm. So what is is there something somebody could tangibly do? Like a journal, write things down, talk to somebody? Is there like a tangible, because it seems so internal, what happens? How can somebody get that out?
So one of the quickest ways to do it, and you can Google it, it's online everywhere, find a resource of listed values. Values are endless. There's a million of them. Find a pretty comprehensive list. There's 3 steps to it. First, go through and circle every single word on that page that jumps out at you. It could be acceptance. It could be accolades. It could be service. It could be money. It could be wisdom. It could be anything. Go through and circle everyone that talks to you. Step 2, go back through and cross off each one that, upon second thought, I think I'm supposed to care about this, but I kind of don't. That's okay. Cross it off. Step 3, go back and put a big fat star next to your top 3. If you could live every day, make every decision, have every thought, have every relationship, have every emotional reaction, be filtered through those 3 words, what would they be? And then post it on your mirror, post it on your dashboard, put it on your phone, have those words in your visual all the time, and remind yourself to act accordingly. When our thoughts and our behavior and our words are all congruent, that is happiness.
So in the same sense of preparing for a basketball game, watching tape, film, technique, if you take that same approach in this direction,
clarity. Crystal clear.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Thank you so much, Courtney, for your insight, your advice. One question we have for the audience. Are you a sculptor or are you a painter? Now, your motivational speech. Thanks so much for joining us this week for Joccupation. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Please join us next week when we'll be discussing giving back and charity.